There we go. All right, thanks everybody for joining. Jaime, great to see you, man, in from Mexico City.
Thank you. And by the way, my last name is Rogozinsky.
There we go. So, WallStreetBets, the rise of retail investing, meme stonks, meme coins, DeFi, NFTs, all this stuff, it all ties back in some way in its DNA to WallStreetBets. Let's talk about the origin story, man. Like, how did it begin? How did the ethos evolve?
It's actually interesting because the ethos, I'll get to that answer, but the ethos of it mirrors that of the crypto world, right? It was born around the same time as Bitcoin was. It was post-financial crisis. And it was born, I created it out of frustration. I personally lost my job to the financial crisis and was left unemployed for a while. Then eventually I got a job and I decided, it was a very well-paying job. I had a lot of extra disposable income. I could afford the risk because I was single, didn't have any kids at the time. And I was just looking, I said, look, I'm going to take the extra money. I'm going to risk it, right? And I'm going to hope to make enough money so I don't have to be in that situation again. And so that's really where the spirit of this thing came. And along the same time, we have the Bitcoin, the crypto revolution, starting with its own, hey, the whole centralized system, banks, the fiat currencies and government control, let's try and get away from that as well. So both of them kind of started off on same direction, but different paths to get there. And I can see how now they're starting to merge.
Yeah, that's for sure. And tell me about the ethos, like the underlying support for the little guy and helping him to come up and rise up and take on these institutions and succeed.
So, WallStreetBets starts off with this idea of, hey, these big banks were gambling with the money that they're not supposed to gamble with. The term casino has been used to describe Wall Street as far back as Google lets me search. I've been able to find instances in the early 1900s, right? And they usually talk about that in a derogatory ways. Hey, these investment banks, they're being irresponsible, they're gambling. And I decided to embrace that, right? And say, you know what, that's right. Maybe they are gambling and setting up tents outside of Wall Street and occupying, it's not going to do very much good. But perhaps if we're able to actually wear that on our sleeves and show that individuals, not just large institutions, are the ones that can also play with this thing, sometimes irresponsibly, sometimes incredibly educated and intelligent manner, but also embracing a ton of risk that people everywhere are able to participate too. And right around the same time, you start getting these discount brokers, eventually free, right? Like Robinhood, and now they've basically forced all the other brokers. No minimums, instant funding, like these barriers to entry have been going down and down and down. And pretty much anyone's able to participate in the financial system, of the stock market. This allows people to come together and say, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and take risk, embrace it, call Wall Street what it is, a casino, and have some fun with it and hopefully make some money too. And obviously throughout the years, the community's figured out a lot of ways to outsmart, most notably GameStop this year. But prior to this year, they'd done a lot of really high profile things that were just as sophisticated.
Yeah, amazing stuff and tons of fun, to your point, right?
Yeah.
So let's fast forward then to present day. We got WallStreetBets DApp. Tell me about what that is, what the current offering is, and where things are going.
So for a little bit of context, I do a lot of speaking. I would say half the speaking that I do is to these investment groups. I was just in Vegas at Money 2020, Stansberry Research. I spoke at London Stock Exchange, et cetera. And then I speak at a lot of DeFi, crypto, NFT type conferences. When I go to these investor forums and I talk about crypto, I get this response of, oh, okay, so crypto, do you think Bitcoin's going to go up or down, right? Like that's the extent of crypto. And I get frustrated. It's like, no, I made that mistake too. Crypto is not just Bitcoin, I promise. And then God help me if I bring up NFTs. Then when I come to this type of event and I say, hey, I like stocks, right? People look at me and say, what's a stock? where does it get its value from, and why would anybody pay money for one, right? I get the exact same face. Like, there's no reason why stock should exist when you have crypto, right? So it's an interesting dichotomy that exists. These two worlds are incredibly powerful. They're incredibly big. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of influence in both. And WSB DApp, the WallStreetBets DApp, is an effort to try and merge these two worlds together. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. The power of crypto is unfathomable, more specifically DeFi. They've created really sophisticated, intelligent, smart contract-based, trustworthy systems that can do things that normal Wall Street cannot do. You know, anything from the automated market makers to the way that these have intelligent ETFs that have like variable leverage components and just real sophisticated stuff. They trade 24 hours a day, which is, I think, one of the most basic things that a healthy market needs. But there's also a lot of great things in the stock market, right? Such as so does crypto, but the stock market is still a way for companies to grow, raise money, reinvest, jobs, goods and services, et cetera. So putting these two things together. So what we're doing with the WSB DApp is we're doing several things. It's a DAO, so people can buy the token, they become part of the governance, they can vote on making these decisions. We're tokenizing stocks, right? So you take the stock, you put it on the blockchain, we pass on the dividend rights, the voting rights and the dividends, and you're actually participating in the stock market. We're creating these intelligent ETFs. We're calling them ETPs, right? So you can have these mixes. You can buy an ETP that has a little bit of Tesla, a little bit of GameStop, but also has a little bit of Ethereum, a little bit of Solana, and a little bit of whatever else you want to put in there. I guess NFTs should be on the table as well. And basically that's the crux of it, right? We're trying to stay ahead of merging these two worlds together.
Yeah, so bringing people in originally through WallStreetBets, bringing people in now on the blockchain, doing the same thing, but at a whole other level. It seems game-changing for sure. So let's think about the future then of DeFi and traditional finance. Where does it go from here? How do you see the next several months or several years evolving?
I don't pretend to be smart enough to what's going to happen in a few years, right? Like, this thing moves so quickly. Just in the time that I came here, I don't know how much I've already missed out by not checking the Twitter. But it's clear that these two worlds are going to merge. It's inevitable. Like the last speaker said, it's a train that's on its way, and you can't do anything to stop it. And I think that both worlds are going to learn the best of practices. There's still a lot of great things on Wall Street. There's a lot of great things on crypto. And I can see them starting to merge to the point where you don't have to make that distinction of, do you like stocks or do you like crypto? It's, hey, if you're using stocks and or crypto for investing purposes or YOLO or whatever, they are just part of the same thing. It's, hey, I own a little bit of Bitcoin, I own a little bit of Microsoft, and a little bit of whatever other type of asset that you want. NFTs, or like the last panel that was on, they were actually taking physical things and putting them on the blockchain. All that stuff is fair game. So I can see those two things no longer being different.
Yeah, so the merging of traditional, the merging with DeFi, NFTs in play, so many cool things happening. It's amazing the influence you've had on the space so far, and so excited for you to be here, sitting next to me, talking about this with the crowd. I'm sure a lot of people may have questions for you about your history, about what you're working on, and so on. So I think we wanted to open the floor in our limited time here to some questions on the floor, and I think here we go. We'll take it from here.
Yeah. All right.
Who's got questions? What's the next stock that's going to pump? Nobody? Don't be shy.
Up here at the front.
Don't be shy.
Hey, so one of my questions would be, considering that, WallStreetBets took off as primarily because of the meme coins and all these things going on, and there was a lot of the younger generation. There was a lot of the younger generation. I think I'm too close to the speaker.
Turn around, yeah.
Yeah, so considering that there's a lot of the younger generation that were involved in that experience there, like, what are some things you think that, potentially, I believe the project that you're working on can do to, educate the youth a little bit more on the, investments, including cryptocurrency, stocks, and everything like that, considering that, like, there's a large youth influence that's growing on your platform, essentially?
So, interesting question. I'm not so convinced necessarily that the youth has to learn a lot, because the youth is defining. Look, if you look around what's happening just in this convention center, right? You can see that there is change in the air, and you can see that things are different. I'm currently talking with a group of older individuals who are lifetime auctioneers. These guys said, "Hey, I've auctioned a total of $1 billion worth of stuff in my entire life, and I don't understand what this NFT is. But it's clear that I need to do something with them. Help me merge these two ideas together." The symbolic point of that is, here you have the older, wiser, experienced people saying, "Hey, dear young person, teach me how this works," right? Yeah. So to some extent, it's not as relevant of passing the knowledge of the previous guard, because look, stocks, they used to be transported on horseback across Manhattan, and it would take 2 days, and then somebody has to reconcile the things, and that's why we have 2-day settlements, which ended up causing the Robin Hood debacle. There's no reason to teach that to someone when crypto does instant settlement. Like, these things are archaic and gone. So to some extent, it's, hey, this is here to stay. It's a lot of power, and it's going to change. And so I think the young people have to educate the older people. As for the bigger brands that want to come in, I see the Louis Vuitton bag over there, et cetera. But on the other hand, there is something fundamental that is going to transcend these two generations, which is, hey, how can I be wise about my money? That doesn't change, right? Like, how can I store value? That I do stuff to generate money, wealth, whatever, value, and I want to store some of that so that I can buy bigger stuff or pay for my kids' education or whatever it is that you want to do, and I want to have these assets work for me. So that fundamental concept's not going away. Making things easy to understand is fundamentally important. Taking away, look, these mortgage-backed securities, these collateralized debt obligations, these are multisyllabic, complicated words that don't really mean very much, right? Or they do, but you can describe them with a meme. You take your CFA test, it's just jargon. You know these concepts already. You know them with Pepe, you know them with whatever these GIFs or whatever animated JPEGs are. That's not difficult. So if you take that veil of sophistication away, you make it fun, you can embrace the risk, you can embrace whatever it might be, and allow people to take control and realize, hey, this is really not that complicated.
Yeah. Like that. Thank you.
Hello. So I know that for most of this industry, everything is relatively new. So when it comes to learning in your personal experience, what has been the best way that you have been able to grasp true, accurate information rather than just false information that could be around in the internet?
So there's two things that you said, so maybe clarify. One thing you said is learning, and the other one you said acquiring information.
Okay.
Which of those two things, or both?
I feel like it's both, because it's like when you're learning from certain information, and it's like whether you're learning from accurate information or from false information.
Got
that
it.
appears to
Okay,
be real.
yeah. So I guess what I meant by information is like, okay, well, which stock is going to go up type information. All right. So where do you learn, and what's the best way to do it? Look, there are some truths out there that are really objective, right? But it's not so clear cut as when something's going to go up in value. You can't just say, well, you can say supply and demand, but once you get done with that one explanation, if you actually say, why did the stocks go up today, or why did the crypto go up today, and why they went back down, it is not going to be whatever news article you found that day, right? Sometimes, very rarely, that's the case, but more often than not, there's 1 million factors that are affecting whatever is happening, and you can find a lot of competing truths around it. What I recommend for people that want to learn whatever type of system is, find something that is a simple explanation with which you can relate to, right? One of those explanations will be true. It can be true at the same time as something else is true. But as long as you continue down that path, you can keep digging and digging and digging and understand it more. Let me give you one example as to what I mean by that, because I realized that was abstract. When I started trading, I was like, how do I make money, right? Somebody teach me, experts, please. Tell me when it's going to go up or down, and I'll short or I'll long. And I had in a chat room 3 professional traders that were all very, very wealthy, and they were all very successful. One guy that was a technical trader, he looked at, he drew astrology charts on the, drawings on the charts and said, no, this thing's going to go up because of the head and shoulders, whatever. The other guy was a news trader, right? This was back in the day. He paid like $20,000 a month, and he had this vibrating bracelet, and he would get the news, like The Wire, 20 seconds before the actual news people would get it. So he'd run to his computer, and he would make a trade. And then a third one who was an algorithmic trader. So he used like statistics and quantitative analysis. And so I said to the 3, all right, all of you guys always competing with each other, just tell me whether the stock's going to go up or down. And let's have the competition to see who's right. And so one day we decided on a Wednesday at 2 o'clock, which is when the Federal Reserve, on certain Wednesdays, they announce news about the interest rate. It usually causes things to happen in the stocks. We said, all right, 2 o'clock, this thing's going to go on. And the 3 of them ahead of time said, this thing's going to go up to this value, then it's going to drop here, so I'm going to short it, blah. The other guy said, you're crazy, I'm going to wait until my thing vibrates, and then if the interest is higher, then I'm going to buy, and if it's whatever, then I'm going to sell. And then the third guy said, you guys are both dumb, because if you look at the volatility component of this, as far as what we're expecting in the average volume, we're going to stay within this range, and I'm going to short into the mean, or long into the mean. And sure enough, 2 o'clock came across, and all 3 of them had different trades. One of them was shorting, one of them was longing, and I don't know what the third guy was doing. All 3 of them made a ton of money in front of me, right? So I was like, all right, I give up, right? I could have shorted, I couldn't have longed it, like I don't know what the hell is going on. And that's when I realized you can have multiple ways and multiple approaches, but their conviction was so real for each of them, and they've learned this, and they had trust in themselves and in the system that they were able to do it. So that would be my recommendation for people that want to learn, is find something you're comfortable with.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to do one more question. Any hands?
Up here.
Sorry.
So you may have mentioned this before. I was a little late to this, but can you tell us anything about the Metaverse that you're building? Is it going to be like what you're sort of talking about right now? It's sort of easier to understand the finances behind how you make money in this world, or?
So Metaverse is still being defined, right? I can explain Metaverse the way most of you guys will probably currently understand it. And in this Metaverse, most of the ones that I've seen are digital representations, right, with some caveats or differences of the real world. And that's how this interpretation is taking place. But it is so early on that it's not fair to say, now you're going to have a shopping mall in the Metaverse. Probably you will, because that's the first thing that comes up to our minds. But there's going to be really smart people that are just now in high school or in middle school that are going to come up with something that's well outside of this whole, hey, I can understand a shopping mall, I can understand a video game, I can understand those two things being together. Somebody's going to come up with something crazy, and I don't know what that is. And so I don't know what that will turn into. But currently, the shopping mall works. Because what is the Metaverse? You have a place where people congregate, right, for X number of reasons, and they can actually interact meaningfully, and you can have full-blown economies there. So if you were to have a property in a Metaverse with a lot of foot traffic, right, it's really easy to see how selling an ad on a wall where a lot of people walking by would make a lot of sense, because that's currently what the model can allow us to do. If you want to put a little digital store, right, or if you want to be able to, you can order your pizzas and actually get them physically at your house, or buy your merchandise online. Like, I can see how the people could make a living, literally, just in a separate space. It's a separate office. It's a different location. And I can understand how that's going to be the first iteration, but I do not think that's going to be what we're going to end up with. We're going to end up with something much more efficient, much more sophisticated, and much more fun.
I love that answer. We don't know what we don't know, and don't limit ourselves by what we do know, right? So awesome. You guys give it up for WallStreetBets and for Edge of NFT.